These are the Little Orphan Annie comic strips for the week of October 5th, 1925. Annie is listening to Daddy Warbucks and his wife have an argument over the events of the previous week, where Count de Tour tried to frame Annie for theft. Mrs. Warbucks says, "Oliver, how dare you insinuate that the Count de Tour is a common thief?" He says, "I didn't say he was a common thief. I said if he didn't take your diamonds, how did they get under his mattress?" Annie says, "Gee whiskers, they're at it again." So she enters the room. She says, "I can explain everything. I put those diamonds under his mattress myself, I did. You see, somebody put 'em in my dresser drawer. I was scared you'd think I stole 'em, but I figured the Count could think of a good excuse if he got caught with 'em, so I put 'em in his room." When Daddy's alone, he looks very happy. He says, "There's a slick kid for you. Figured the Count could talk his way out of it, eh? I see it all now. The Count was framing her to make her look like a thief, but instead she made him look like a sucker." The next day, Annie is going through the house by herself. She says, "Aw, leapin' lizards. Daddy and Mrs. Warbucks are jawing away worse'n ever. What's the use of people fighting all the time like that? This isn't a home, it's a nut house. That's what it is. No peace, no nothing. 'Tisn't real. That Count, why didn't he stay in Europe?" And now she's talking to her dog, Sandy. She says, "And Selby, he isn't human. He isn't. Some ways he's 1,000 years old, and other ways he's dumber'n an oyster. Just a lot of shiny hair and baggy pants and meanness. That's all he is." Annie sits down on some stairs while her dog licks her comfortingly. She says, "Daddy's so kind and nice every way. Why can't he have a nice quiet home? Guess it's 'cause he got too much money. The Silos didn't have any money, but they were happy. If you've got to spend your happiness to get rich, I hope I'm always just a poor orphan kid." The next day, the Count is buttering up Mrs. Warbucks with a lot of compliments. He says, "Why, my dear lady, you are wasting the best years of your life in this stagnant pool, this America. Think what a woman of your charm and poise could be in any of the great capitals of Europe. Why, madam, you could be a queen. In France, for instance. What a setting for you! Le Touquet, Deauville, Dinard, Biarritz. Where else does the cosmopolitan world create such a brilliant background for your holiday? And if you tire of formality and fashion, you can slip away into peasant France, where they still wear caps and sabots. There are the little tucked-away fishing villages. There are the French Alps or Pyrenees, jeweled with little red-roofed towns. The world is yours, dear lady. Here you have naught but petty annoyances, such as this orphan imp, when your whole life should be one long gay holiday." It occurs to me that the Count probably should have a French accent and not a British accent. But I can't do a good French accent, so I'm just giving him a high-class British accent, just like the voice I use for Selby. Anyway, the next day, Mrs. Warbucks is checking her hair. She says, "The Count is right. Why should I waste my life here unappreciated, insulted constantly by the sight of that loathsome orphan, when Europe offers me everything?" She goes to her husband, who is reading the newspaper in his chair. She says, "Think of it. Le Touquet, Deauville, Dinard, Biarritz. Where else does the cosmopolitan world create such a brilliant background for your holiday?" Mr. Warbucks says, "Yeah?" But he's still reading his newspaper. He's not even looking at her, as she says. "The Count says here I am wasting the best years of my life. He says with my charm and poise that in any of the capitals of Europe I could be a queen." Mr. Warbucks goes, "Uh-huh." Then he says, "Gee whiz, I notice it says here that rubber has bounced up 3 points. So clearly he is not paying any attention to what his wife is saying. Things heat up the next day when the Count realizes he's been tricked. We see him on the estate by a road, peeking out from behind a bush. He says, "Will that infernal messenger never come? Ah, perhaps that is the car now." A car arrives, a man with a driving cap comes and gives a paper to the Count. The Count says, "You have kept me waiting. Be gone at once. Even now we may be watched." I'm pretty sure this scene takes place at nighttime because the sky is very dark. Although it's hard to tell because they're in a secluded area with a lot of trees. The Count reads the paper. He says, "The maps and contracts have arrived at my headquarters. This should be good news." "What? Paper's not genuine, of no value whatever, evidently forged as a hoax." The Count angrily crumples up the paper and says, "Betrayed! Warbucks hasn't the intelligence to perpetrate such a scheme. It is my lieutenants. They have betrayed me, the Count de Tours, but they shall pay." The very next day, the Count realizes the truth. He is slumped in a chair while Selby stands up next to him. He says, "Selby, we have been duped. I was unjust in at first suspecting that my colleagues had double-crossed me. After cabling all day, I know now that this Warbucks person tricked us. He substituted false papers and has made us look like fools. But how was I to know? Those maps and contracts seem genuine. I never supposed he had the intelligence to perpetrate such a trick." Selby says, "Well, I told you to look out for him." Count picks up his cane and comes at Selby, as if intending to strike Selby with the cane. Selby is scared and running away. The Count says, "Bah! You told me! You told me! If it hadn't been for you in that safe, you little idiot, everything would have been all right!" In the final panel, we have stars coming off of Selby's backside as if he has been spanked on the butt with the cane. While the Count looks out a window, still holding the cane, he says, "I sent you here to get information, and what did you accomplish? Nothing. I might have known those maps were false. Now we've showed our hand, all because of you. Bah!" So the Count is furious, and trust me, he's gonna come up with an even meaner scheme to stop Daddy Warbucks.